Hello friends, let us now learn about a new topic today about the triangles of the neck. So if you see, first before going into the each and every triangle in detail, first we will see the triangles of the neck. So this is the neck. The neck extends from the mandible to the clavicle below. Okay, upper part from the mandible to the clavicle below. The whole part which is present in between includes the neck. So in this neck we have divided the neck into two triangles basically. This is the first triangle which is in front of the sternocleidomastoid, bounded on each sides by the sternocleidomastoid anteriorly. That triangle is called as, we have anterior triangle. Okay, this is anterior triangle. So if you see this triangle which you are seeing here, this hole which is bounded on either side by the sternocleidomastoid, above it is bounded by the mandible, below it is bounded by the clavicle, is called as anterior triangle. Okay, then behind the sternocleidomastoid we have one more triangle which is called as posterior triangle. What is this posterior triangle? It is bounded anteriorly by sternocleidomastoid, posteriorly by the trapezius muscle, below by the clavicle, and above by the meeting point of this sternocleidomastoid with trapezius. This triangle is called as posterior triangle. Right, now this anterior triangle is again divided into three types of triangles. Four types of triangle. This is bounded by the digastric. So this muscle which you are seeing with green color, that is digastric muscle. So this digastric muscle, a triangle which is a part of anterior triangle, bounded above by the mandible, below by both the bellies of digastric, that is anteriorly by anterior belly of digastric, posterior inferiorly by posterior belly of digastric. This triangle is called as digastric triangle. Okay, then the triangle which is, then we have next second part of the anterior triangle are the triangle which is anterior to sternocleidomastoid, bounded above by the digastric muscle and below by the omohyoid, is called as carotid triangle. This is the triangle where you will find the carotid arteries, carotid vessels. Then we have a triangle which is bounded by the hyoid bone below and digastric muscle on either sides, anterior belly of digastric on either sides, above by the mentum, is called as mental triangle. Okay, this triangle is mental triangle. Then you have one more triangle below the mental triangle which is bounded on either sides by the omohyoid muscle. This is omohyoid, belly of omohyoid, and this triangle is called as muscular triangle. Okay, so these are the different triangles in the anterior triangle, is divided into these four triangles. First we will see about the posterior triangle, then we go into the anterior triangle. So this is the posterior triangle. So in the posterior triangle, this is bounded anteriorly. First we will see the boundaries. Okay, anteriorly it is bounded by posterior border of sternocleidomastoid. Anteriorly, this is the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Sternocleidomastoid muscle has two borders. This is the anterior border and this is the posterior border. So here anteriorly it is bounded by the posterior border of sternocleidomastoid. Okay, posteriorly it is bounded by the anterior border of the trapezius. See, this is the trapezius. This trapezius also has the posterior border and anterior border. It is bounded by the anterior border of trapezius. Okay, so anteriorly we have posterior border of sternocleidomastoid, posteriorly we have anterior border of trapezius. And if you see inferiorly it is bounded by the clavicle. Inferiorly, you see superior aspect of medial 1/3 of clavicle is seen inferiorly. So these are the boundaries of the posterior triangle. And what about the apex? Apex is actually the meeting point of both sternocleidomastoid and trapezius. Right, now what about the contents? So if you see the contents, these posterior triangle has first nerves. Main nerves are, it has greater auricular nerve. This greater auricular nerve runs forwards and upwards and it crosses the sternocleidomastoid and divides into anterior and posterior branches, and this will supply the skin of the face over the angle of mandible and skin of the mastoid region. This is greater auricular nerve. Then we have transverse cervical nerve. This transverse cervical nerve passes forward across the sternocleidomastoid deep to the external jugular vein, and it divides into ascending branches and descending branches, and these branches will supply the front of the neck. So that is the reason why because it runs transversely, it is called as transverse cervical nerve. Okay, then we have supraclavicular nerves. What does this supraclavicular nerves do? These nerves will arise from a common trunk and divides into medial supraclavicular nerve, intermediate supraclavicular nerve, and lateral supraclavicular nerve. So if you see this, medial supraclavicular nerve will crosses in front of the medial 1/3 of the clavicle, and it supplies the chest up to the second rib. It supplies the chest up to the second rib. Whereas intermediate supraclavicular nerve, it also crosses this clavicle, and it will also supply in front of the chest. Whereas lateral supraclavicular nerve also crosses in front of the lateral 1/3 of clavicle, and it also supplies the skin over the shoulder. Okay, so these are the supraclavicular nerves, which include medial supraclavicular nerve, intermediate supraclavicular nerve, and lateral supraclavicular nerves. Then we have one more branch, which is this is lesser occipital nerve. So if you see this lesser occipital nerve, this will innervate, this will first it goes upwards and it will hook around the spinal accessory nerve. Okay, and this will innervate the skin of the upper 1/3 of clavicle, cranial surface of auricle, and head behind the auricle. So these are the different contents. You should, though you don't remember all these codes and everything, the contents of the posterior triangle you should remember. The contents of the posterior triangle are, we have lesser nerve contents, mainly we have lesser occipital nerve, then we have greater auricular nerve, transverse cervical nerve, and superficial clavicular nerve. Then we have some more contents. So in the floor of the posterior triangle, the floor of the posterior triangle consists of the following things, following muscles. These are also important. In the floor of the posterior triangle, we have semispinalis capitis. This is semispinalis capitis. This is splenius capitis, semispinalis capitis, splenius capitis. Then levator scapulae, scalenus medius, first digitation of serratus anterior. So what do you have in this floor of the posterior triangle? We have semispinalis capitis, splenius capitis, levator scapulae, scalenus medius, first digitation of serratus anterior. Okay, we have something called as facial carpet here. What is this facial carpet? This facial carpet covers the muscular floor, and this facial carpet is mainly made up of the prevertebral layer of deep cervical fascia. It is mainly made up of prevertebral layer of deep cervical fascia, and it forms the axillary sheath around the subclavian artery and also brachial plexus. It also forms the axillary sheath around the subclavian artery and brachial plexus. This is facial carpet. What are the floor muscles again? Semispinalis capitis, splenius capitis, levator scapulae, scalenus medius, and first digitation of serratus anterior. Next we will see the contents of the posterior triangle properly. So there are many, I know it is very congested. So first we will see the posterior triangle. This is divided into two triangles, that is occipital triangle and subclavian triangle, by the muscle omohyoid. So this I will show you. So if you see, this is the posterior triangle. Okay, this is the muscle omohyoid. This muscle omohyoid will divide this whole posterior triangle into the upper part and the lower part. This upper part is called as occipital triangle, whereas this lower part is called as subclavian triangle. The upper part is called as occipital triangle, the lower part is called as subclavian triangle or supraclavicular triangle. So if you see, this upper part is occipital triangle and this lower part is supraclavicular triangle, and this division is done by the muscle omohyoid. This omohyoid has divided into two triangles. So one we have occipital triangle and second we have subclavian triangle. That is one. Next we will see the contents. So if you see the contents, I have already shown you some contents, right? First we will label them. So the contents which were already dealt are, we have lesser occipital nerve, greater auricular nerve, transverse cervical nerve, supraclavicular nerves, right? So this is the supraclavicular nerves. Okay, so these are already dealt, and also transverse cervical nerve, I have made it, right? Yeah, so lesser occipital nerve, greater auricular nerve, transverse cervical nerve, and suprascapular nerves. See, these were already dealt. So now we will see the rest. So if you see, the others include others which are the contents. Even these are also contents. One is occipital artery. So this is the occipital artery. Occipital artery is a branch of external carotid artery. Occipital artery is a direct branch of external carotid artery, and it crosses the apex of this triangle. This is the apex, right? So it crosses the apex of this triangle superficial to semispinalis capitis. So if you see the previous picture, what is the superior most muscle? The superficial muscle is semispinalis capitis. So because this occipital artery will cross semispinalis capitis, okay, in the apex of the triangle. Next we have this is the nerve which you see. This is spinal accessory nerve. Okay, what is this spinal accessory nerve? It is the 12th cranial nerve. It emerges by piercing the posterior border of sternocleidomastoid. This is the sternocleidomastoid. It goes like this. It emerges by piercing the posterior border of sternocleidomastoid, and then it goes downwards, okay, downwards and laterally, that is parallel to levator scapulae, right? This muscle is levator scapulae, and to disappear underneath the trapezius. It goes underneath the trapezius and it supplies the trapezius. Okay, this is spinal accessory nerve. Then the next nerve which is important here is dorsal scapular nerve. So if you see this dorsal scapular nerve, this arises from C5 root. So even these arising also are important. Okay, this arises from C5 root, and it pierces the scalenus medius. Here you have scalenus medius, right? So it pierces the scalenus medius and runs laterally to pass deep to the levator scapulae. So this is dorsal scapular nerve. Then you see this artery, red color. So this is transverse cervical artery. What is this transverse cervical artery? This transverse cervical artery it is a branch of thyrocervical trunk. Transverse cervical artery is a branch of thyrocervical trunk and divides into superficial and deep branches. Okay, this transverse cervical artery is a branch of thyrocervical trunk and divides into superficial and deep branches. Then we have external jugular vein. This vein is called as external jugular vein. Okay, then this vein which you are seeing here is called as transverse cervical vein. Transverse cervical vein will drain into the external jugular vein. External jugular vein will drain into subclavian vein. Okay, so this subclavian artery and subclavian vein are also the contents of this subclavian triangle. Okay, subclavian artery will pass behind the scalenus anterior over the first rib. Remember, subclavian artery passes behind the scalenus anterior over the first rib, whereas subclavian vein will pass in front of the scalenus anterior. Subclavian artery A, after A we get B. So subclavian artery passes behind the scalenus anterior. Subclavian vein is in vein passes in front of the scalenus anterior. You can remember like that. Then from the subclavian from the thyrocervical trunk we have one more branch which is called as suprascapular artery. This suprascapular artery is also a branch of thyrocervical trunk. Okay, then we have suprascapular nerve also. This is the suprascapular nerve. This suprascapular nerve arises from the upper trunk of brachial plexus. Then these trunks of brachial plexus are also seen in this triangle. That is upper, middle and lower trunks of brachial plexus. See, so we have lots of contents. So we'll remember in two ways. One, we have by dividing this posterior triangle into two triangles. We have occipital triangle and supraclavicular or subclavian triangle. So if you see in the occipital triangle, what are there? In the occipital triangle, all the 5 nerves which we have dealt already, 4 nerves which we have dealt already, that is lesser occipital nerve, greater auricular nerve, transverse cervical nerve and supraclavicular nerves. So all these 4 will supply the skin. Okay, then if you see the deeper structures, first we have occipital artery. From above downwards we have occipital artery, then we have spinal accessory nerve, then we have dorsal scapular vein and transverse cervical vein. So these are the contents of subclavian triangle. Occipital triangle. These are the contents of occipital triangle. Then what are the contents of subclavian triangle? Contents of subclavian triangle first include transverse cervical artery and even a part of transverse cervical nerve. Then Then this transverse cervical vein drains into external jugular vein. So external jugular vein is a part of subclavian triangle. This external jugular vein will drain into subclavian vein, right? So subclavian vein is a part of subclavian triangle. Then we have subclavian artery here also, which is a part of subclavian triangle. Then nerves, some nerves like suprascapular nerves and trunk of brachial plexus are also the parts of subclavian or supraclavicular triangle. Okay. Other contents which are not shown in this figure are nerve to subclavius. There are some lymph nodes also, and nerve to rhomboids. Nerve to subclavius, nerve to rhomboids, and some lymph nodes. So this is about posterior triangle. Next, if you see, after posterior triangle we have anterior triangle of neck, right? So in the anterior triangle of neck, this anterior triangle of neck is this is the anterior triangle. It is divided into 4 different types of triangles. So first, before that, we will see the boundaries of anterior triangle of neck. So if you see the boundaries of anterior triangle of neck, this anterior triangle of neck is bounded, the base of the anterior triangle of neck is by the lower border of mandible and the line extending from the angle of mandible to the, this is mastoid process. So this is the base. Base is lower border of mandible, and from there to the, and also the line extending from the angle of mandible to the mastoid process. So this is the base. Then what do you see anteriorly? Anteriorly we have anterior median line of neck. Then posteriorly it is bounded by, this is the sternocleidomastoid, this is the anterior border of sternocleidomastoid, this is the posterior border of sternocleidomastoid. Here this anterior triangle is bounded by anterior border of sternocleidomastoid posteriorly. Then what do you see? This is the apex. Apex is downwards here. This apex is nothing but the suprasternal notch, and it is the meeting point of anterior border of sternocleidomastoid and the anterior midline. It is the meeting point of anterior border of sternocleidomastoid and the anterior midline. Then what is seen in the roof? In the roof you have investing layer of deep cervical fascia. Okay, so these are the main boundaries of anterior triangle. Then we will see the divisions of anterior triangle. Now I have already told you that the anterior triangle is divided into digastric, submental, muscular and carotid parts. So we will see each of them in detail. So first we have this anterior triangle is divided, the first branch is digastric triangle. First, before going to the triangle, first we see 2 muscles, important things. That is, we have digastric muscle and omohyoid muscle. These 2 muscles will divide the anterior triangle into different parts. So if you see digastric muscle, the origin of the digastric muscle is the anterior belly originates from the digastric fossa on the base of the mandible, whereas the origin of posterior belly is at the digastric notch, which is present on the medial surface of base of mandible. It is present on the medial surface of base of mandible. This is posterior belly. Then if you see the insertion is by an intermediate tendon to the hyoid bone. The insertion of this digastric muscle is to the intermediate tendon to hyoid bone. Okay, so this is about the digastric muscle. So both these origins from the anterior and posterior belly, they have a common insertion at hyoid bone. Then we have omohyoid. If you see omohyoid, this is correctly opposite. If you see, this omohyoid actually has the common origin. See, if you see, in digastric we have common insertion, in omohyoid we have common origin, that is superior, there is no common origin, there is no common so in omohyoid mainly we have origin is superior belly of digastric originate. So this is the superior belly of omohyoid. Omohyoid also has two bellies similar to digastric. So this is the superior belly of omohyoid, this is the inferior belly of omohyoid, right? So this omohyoid superior belly originates from intermediate tendon, whereas this insertion is at the hyoid bone. Insertion is at lower border of hyoid bone. Okay, then if you see the posterior belly, Okay, the posterior belly or inferior belly. The inferior belly, origin of the inferior belly is from the upper border of scapula. It originates from upper border of scapula and it inserts into the inferior belly. Okay, so if you see, in the inferior belly originates from the upper border of scapula and inserts into the intermediate tendon, whereas omohyoid originates from the intermediate tendon and inserts into the lower border of hyoid bone. So it is like a continuation from below upwards, right? Next, if you see, what is this intermediate tendon, where does this intermediate tendon lie? This intermediate tendon actually lies at the cricoid cartilage. This intermediate tendon lies at the cricoid cartilage and anchored to the clavicle by a fascial sling. What is this fascial sling derived from? It is derived from the investing layer of deep cervical fascia. So if you see, this intermediate tendon lies at the level of arch of cricoid cartilage and anchored to the clavicle by fascial sling derived from investing layer of deep cervical fascia. Next we see the triangles. So if you see, the first triangle is submental triangle. Okay, this submental triangle is a part of anterior triangle. What are the boundaries of submental triangle? So if you see the boundaries of submental triangle, apex is formed by the chin or symphysis menti. On either side you see anterior belly of digastric. Apex you have chin, then on either side you have anterior belly of digastric, and on the base you have body of sphenoid bone. The base you have body of sphenoid bone. And if you see in the floor you see two mylohyoid muscles which are meeting in the fibrous raphe. In the floor you see, these are the two mylohyoid muscles which are meeting the fibrous raphe. So in the floor you see two mylohyoid muscles which are meeting the fibrous raphe. So what is mylohyoid muscle? Extends from this mylohyoid, this is the mylohyoid muscle, it extends from symphysis menti to the hyoid bone. Okay, that is mylohyoid muscle. It originates in symphysis menti and it extends till the hyoid bone. Then what is seen in the roof? In the roof we see investing layer of deep cervical fascia. In the roof you see investing layer of deep cervical fascia. So these are the main boundaries of submental triangle. So contents are simple. Contents are mainly include submental lymph nodes, submental veins, and commencement of anterior jugular vein occurs in this triangle. Contents are submental lymph nodes, submental veins, and commencement of anterior jugular veins. This is submental triangle. Then the next triangle is digastric triangle. So if you see, the next triangle is a part of again anterior triangle, which is nothing but digastric triangle. So what are you going to see in this digastric triangle? So in this digastric triangle we'll see boundaries again. The boundary is base of the triangle. Here the base of the triangle is formed by the mandible bone and also the line joining from the mandible to the mastoid process. This is the base of the triangle. Then if you see the anterior part of the triangle, inferiorly it is completely bounded by posterior belly of digastric. So antero-inferiorly it is bounded by anterior belly of digastric, postero-inferiorly it is bounded by posterior belly of digastric. So this is the apex of the triangle. Apex is the confluent or combined or intermediate tendon of digastric muscle. It is the point where both anterior and posterior belly of digastric will fuse. That is the place where you find the apex of the triangle. Then what about the floor? Floor is made up of the this is mylohyoid muscle. Okay, floor is made up of mylohyoid. These are hyoglossus muscles and this is middle constrictor of pharynx. So floor is made up of mylohyoid, hyoglossus and middle constrictor of pharynx. So what are there in the floor? Mylohyoid, hyoglossus and middle constrictor of pharynx. Okay, what is seen in the roof? In the roof we have investing layer of deep cervical fascia is seen in the roof. Investing layer of deep cervical fascia is seen in the roof. So this is about the digastric or submandibular triangle. Then after this we will see the contents of this digastric triangle. What are the contents which you see in the digastric triangle? If you see this, the contents, there are many contents in fact. So this digastric triangle is again divided into two parts, anterior part and posterior part of digastric triangle. Okay, the anterior part of digastric triangle has, this is facial vein, facial artery, we have facial vein, facial artery, submandibular salivary glands. This is this whole gland. If you are seeing this, this is submandibular salivary gland. We have facial vein, facial artery, submandibular salivary gland. These are submandibular lymph nodes are present, and we have mylohyoid nerves and vessels. We have mylohyoid nerves and vessels. This nerve which you are seeing here is hypoglossal nerve, and it has mental artery. So what are the contents of the anterior part of the triangle? Facial vein, facial artery, submandibular salivary glands, submandibular lymph nodes, mylohyoid nerves and vessels, hypoglossal nerve and submental artery. Okay, next, what are the contents of the posterior triangle? Posterior triangle consists of external carotid artery. This is all the things, which is external carotid artery, internal carotid artery, but common carotid artery is not there. Common carotid artery is in the carotid triangle. So in the posterior part of the digastric triangle, we have external carotid artery, internal, this is external carotid artery, internal carotid artery. We have this vein also, that is internal jugular vein. Then we have this nerve, that is vagus nerve. Then we have styloid process and its associated muscles, that is stylopharyngeus, styloglossus and stylohyoid. So this you can remember in this way. Here you can remember as there are three main important structures, which are external carotid artery and internal carotid artery, internal jugular vein and vagus nerve. These are the four main structures, and along with that styloid process and its attached muscles. Like, what are the muscles attached to styloid process? Stylopharyngeus, styloglossus and stylohyoid. Stylopharyngeus, styloglossus and stylohyoid. Then what are the contents in the anterior part of the triangle? In the anterior part of the triangle, we have facial vein, facial artery, and then we have submandibular salivary glands and the lymph nodes associated with it, that is submandibular lymph nodes. Then we have mylohyoid nerves and vessels, hypoglossal nerve and submental artery. Okay, so these are the contents in the anterior part of the triangle and contents in the posterior part of the triangle. Now, after this, then if you see, the next triangle is carotid triangle. So what do you see in the carotid triangle? What are the boundaries of carotid triangle? Carotid triangle, superiorly it is bounded by the posterior belly of digastric along with the stylohyoid. So posterior belly of digastric along with the stylohyoid. Then posteriorly it is bounded by the sternocleidomastoid, obviously, right? And what is anteroinferiorly? Anteroinferiorly it is bounded by superior belly of omohyoid. Anteroinferiorly it is bounded by superior belly of omohyoid. Whereas floor it forms the hyoglossus muscle. This is this part. This is hyoglossus muscle. Okay, this is the middle constrictor. So floor is made up of hyoglossus muscle, middle constrictor, and this is thyrohyoid muscle. Okay, and this is inferior constrictor. So floor is made up of hyoglossal muscle, middle constrictor, thyrohyoid muscle and inferior constrictor. So floor is made up of hyoglossus muscle, middle constrictor, thyrohyoid muscle and inferior constrictor. So these are the floor of the carotid triangle. Then what about the roof? Roof of the carotid triangle is made up of investing layer of deep cervical fascia. Okay, superficial fascia contains, the roof contains superficial fascia which includes platysma, cervical branch of facial nerve and transverse cervical nerve. Cervical branch of facial nerve and transverse cervical nerve are also seen in the superficial fascia. Then if you see its contents, I know it's very tricky, so we will see only a few parts in the contents of carotid triangle. So if you see this carotid triangle, it's easy, it's very easy. If you see the carotid triangle, it is made up of the carotid triangle contents include three things you should remember. There is arterial components, venous components. Okay, that is artery. Arteries, what are they? They are common carotid artery, external carotid artery and internal carotid artery. It's simple. Common carotid artery bifurcates into external carotid artery and internal carotid artery. Internal carotid artery does not give any cervical branches, but external carotid artery gives some branches. So those are also seen in this carotid triangle. And we have the vein. Vein is internal jugular vein is seen. Okay, along with that we have nervous components. Nervous components are hypoglossal nerve, spinal accessory nerve and vagus nerve. So we will see the same thing. So if you see, first we will see arterial components. Arterial components include, we have common carotid artery. So this is the common carotid artery, and we have carotid sinus, and we have carotid body. Okay, common carotid artery. With the on the common carotid artery we have carotid body and carotid sinus, and then this common carotid artery divides into two arteries. One is external carotid artery, second is internal carotid artery. So this is external carotid artery and this is internal carotid artery. So we have external carotid artery and internal carotid artery, which are the divisions of common carotid artery. Okay, now we also have one more vein, which is internal jugular vein, which is associated with this. Okay, then if you see now the external carotid artery branches are also seen in this triangle. They are occipital artery, facial artery, lingual artery, ascending pharyngeal artery, and superior thyroid artery. The branches of external carotid artery like occipital artery, facial artery, lingual artery, ascending pharyngeal artery, and superior thyroid artery are also seen in the anterior triangle. Then if you see the nervous components, this nerve is spinal accessory nerve. Okay, then this is U-shaped nerve, which you see. This is ansa cervicalis, and we have in the middle this straight nerve going down. Okay, that is vagus nerve, and this nerve which is curving like this is hypoglossal nerve. So these are the nervous components. What are they? This is spinal accessory. Those which is hooks around the occipital artery is hypoglossal nerve. This hypoglossal nerve will hook around the occipital artery, and that is hypoglossal nerve. And we have ansa cervicalis and we have vagus nerve. So this is about the contents of the carotid triangle. All the rest of the things are not necessary. Only thing that are important is these contents. Okay, next. If you see the next, here if you see we have something called as ansa cervicalis, which is important here. So what is this ansa? This U-shaped structure is called as ansa cervicalis. So if you see, this ansa cervicalis is mainly formed from two things. One from this root, second from this root. This is called as superior root, this is called as inferior root. So this ansa cervicalis is mainly formed from superior root and the inferior root. This superior root is also called as, we call this superior root as descendens glossae. We call this superior root as descendens glossae. Okay, we call this superior root as descendens hypoglossae. Why? Because what is it derived from? So this is the hypoglossal nerve. This superior root is actually derived from hypoglossal nerve, and as a result it is called as superior root or descendens hypoglossae. Whereas we have one more root which is called as inferior root or descendens cervicalis. Where is this inferior root or descendens cervicalis? It is derived from if you see, it is derived from C2 and C3. Right, these are the cervical spinal nerves, that is ventral rami of cervical spinal nerve C2 and C3 gives rise to this inferior root or descendens cervicalis. So it's simple. Here roots are inferior root, which is descendens cervicalis, which is from C2 and C3 spinal nerves, and we have superior root, which is descendens hypoglossae. This carries C1 fibers from hypoglossal nerve. This is from hypoglossal nerve. What are these fibers? These are C1 fibers, right? It carries C1 fibers only, but from hypoglossal nerve. So that is superior root. This superior root will descend downwards over the internal carotid artery and common carotid artery, and this will join with inferior root. This inferior root will wind around internal jugular vein, and it continues with the superior root. So if you see, instead of seeing this wind around and everything, you can say that the superior root is actually related to internal carotid artery and common carotid artery, right? Whereas this inferior root is actually related to internal jugular vein, right? So if you see, the superior root is actually related to internal carotid artery, whereas the inferior root is related to internal jugular vein. Okay, and then this superior root will gives rise to branches to superior belly of omohyoid, right? This gives rise to superior belly of omohyoid, right? Whereas the inferior root will give rise to the others like inferior belly of omohyoid, sternohyoid and thyrohyoid. So if you see, these are, so superior root will give rise to superior belly of omohyoid, right? This is from the superior root, whereas inferior root it gives rise to inferior belly of omohyoid, sternothyroid, and to sternohyoid. So this is from the inferior root, right? Sternohyoid, sternothyroid, and inferior belly of omohyoid. So this is about the ansa cervicalis. So ansa cervicalis is a U-shaped nerve root which is derived from the rami C1, ventral rami of C1, C2, C3. Okay, it supplies all the infrahyoid muscles. This exception is very important, except thyrohyoid. It supplies all the muscles of infrahyoid muscles except thyrohyoid, which is supplied by the nerve to thyrohyoid from the hypoglossal nerve. So if you see, we have C1 fibers from the through the hypoglossal nerve form the superior root, which are called as descendants hypoglossi, whereas C2 and C3 fibers combine together and they form descendants cervicalis. Now this descendant cervicalis is related to internal jugular vein, whereas the superior roots are related to internal carotid and common carotid artery, and both these will join on the in front of the common carotid artery. If you were asked where do they both the superior roots and inferior roots join, the superior root and inferior root, both these will join at both the superior and inferior roots will join at the in front of the common carotid artery. They join in front of the common carotid artery. Okay, so this is about the thing. The superior root will supply only the superior belly of omohyoid, whereas inferior root will supply the inferior belly of omohyoid, sternohyoid, and sternothyroid muscles. Okay, next about the last triangle, which is muscular triangle. So what do you see in the muscular triangle? If you see the boundaries of the muscular triangle, the boundaries include, we have anterosuperiorly, there is anterior belly of omohyoid. Anterosuperiorly, you see anterior belly of omohyoid. Then anteriorly, this is anterior belly of omohyoid. Sorry. Yeah, this is the muscle. This is the anterosuperiorly, anterior belly of omohyoid. Okay, then we have anteriorly, we have anterior median line of the neck, and posterior inferiorly, this is posterior inferiorly, we have anterior border of sternocleidomastoid. So it's simple. Anterior superiorly, we have superior belly of omohyoid. So it should be connected like this actually. Okay, anteriorly we have anterior median line, and posterior inferiorly we have anterior border of sternocleidomastoid. What is the floor made up of? These floor muscles are also important. Floor is actually made up of sternohyoid, sternothyroid, and thyrohyoid. Floor is made up of sternohyoid, sternothyroid, and thyrohyoid. Roof is investing layer of deep cervical fascia. Here the superficial fascia has anterior jugular vein and its lymph nodes. It has anterior jugular vein and its lymph nodes. So if you see, we will see the infrahyoid muscles of the neck. So what are the infrahyoid muscles of the neck? The infrahyoid muscles of the neck include the following, mainly 4 muscles. One, we have sternohyoid, sternothyroid, thyrohyoid, and omohyoid. We have sternohyoid, sternothyroid, thyrohyoid, and omohyoid. Okay, so first we see sternohyoid. So as the name says, it is originated from the manubrium of the sternum and inserted onto the hyoid bone like this. It is originated from the manubrium of sternum. It is originated from the manubrium of sternum and inserted into the sternohyoid. Okay, so this is inserted into the hyoid bone. So this is sternohyoid. What is the nerve supply? Nerve supply of sternohyoid is C1 to C3 by branches of ansa cervicalis. Okay, it depresses the hyoid bone. Then we have sternothyroid. So what do you see in the sternothyroid? This sternothyroid is supplied, it originates from the manubrium of the sternum to the thyroid cartilage, that is sternothyroid. Okay, as the name says. Next, if you see, it is mainly supplied by ansa cervicalis, and it also depresses the thyroid cartilage. Okay, then we have thyrohyoid. What is this thyrohyoid? This thyrohyoid starts from the thyroid cartilage to the hyoid bone. It originates from thyroid cartilage of larynx to the hyoid bone. So if you see, it is mainly supplied by the first cervical nerve. What is its action? Action is it will elevate the thyroid and also depresses the hyoid bone. It elevates the thyroid and depresses the hyoid bone. Then we have omohyoid, which we have already been dealt with. Okay, so these are the different infrahyoid muscles of the neck. So if you see, there is one sentence which I have already told you. All these infrahyoid muscles are supplied by this ansa cervicalis except thyrohyoid muscle, which is a branch of hypoglossal nerve. So from the hypoglossal nerve, that is C1 fibers from hypoglossal nerve, thyrohyoid muscle is supplied. Okay, C1 cervical nerve, that is through hypoglossal nerve. Okay, right. So this is about the muscular triangles of the neck. So the next triangle of the neck is in the posterior part, that is on the back of the neck. We have one more triangle which is called as suboccipital triangle is present in the back of the neck. So in the what are the boundaries of suboccipital triangle? The boundaries of suboccipital triangle include, we have superolaterally, this is the suboccipital triangle, this is the vertebrae, this is the skull, this is the superior nuchal line, this is the inferior nuchal line. Okay, here we have superiormost nuchal line also. So if you see, this is the muscle which is superolaterally, which is made up of obliquus capitis superior. This superolaterally, this muscle is obliquus capitis superior, and this superolateral muscle, it gives origin to transverse process of, origin is from the transverse, this is the origin which is from the transverse process of atlas. Okay, origin is from the transverse process of atlas, and if you see, insertion into the area between the superior nuchal line and inferior nuchal line, it is inserted into the area between the superior nuchal line and inferior nuchal line. What does this obliquus capitis superior do? It extends the head at eclantoaxial joint. This will extend the head at eclantoaxial joint and also rotate the head at atlantoaxial joint. This will help in extend the head at atlantoaxial joint and also rotate the head at atlantoaxial joint. So this is obliquus capitis superior. Then we have the next the next boundary is inferiorly, it is made up of obliquus capitis inferior. Inferiorly, it is made up of obliquus capitis inferior, and if you see, superomedially, it is made up of two muscles. This is one muscle which is longer muscle, and this muscle is rectus capitis posterior major, and this is smaller muscle. Behind this longer muscle is nothing but rectus capitis, and this smaller muscle, which is here seen here, this is called as rectus capitis posterior minor. Okay, this is rectus capitis posterior minor is the smaller muscle which is seen here. So if you see the main origin and insertion, as I have already said, this obliquus capitis superior originates from the transverse process of atlas and it inserts into the area between the superior and inferior nuchal line. The action of this is to extend the head at atlantoaxial joint and to rotate the head at atlantoaxial joint. Extend the head and rotate the head at atlantoaxial joint is the action of obliquus capitis superior. If you see obliquus capitis inferior, it originates from the spine of the axis and it inserts into the transverse, this is the transverse process of atlas. This is the spine of the axis, it originates from the spine of the axis and inserts into the transverse process of atlas. So it originates from spine of the axis and inserts into the transverse process of atlas. Okay, it helps in rotate the head at atlantoaxial joint. So this is inferior capitis obliquus capitis inferior. Then you have two more muscles superomedially. One is rectus capitis major. This originates from the spine of the axis here and gets inserted into the lateral part of inferior nuchal line. It originates from the spine of the axis and gets inserted into the inferior nuchal line lateral part, and this will extend the head at the atlanto-occipital joint. It will extend the head at atlanto-occipital joint. Then if you see the rectus capitis posterior minor, this originates from the posterior tubercle of atlas. This is atlas, right? It originates from the posterior tubercle of atlas. And where does it get inserted? It gets inserted into the medial part of inferior nuchal line. It gets inserted into the medial part of inferior nuchal line. It will also extend the head at atlanto-occipital joint. So if you see, it's easier to remember. If you see, the extension at atlanto-occipital joint is done by the both rectus capitis posterior major and minor, right? Extension of head at atlanto-occipital joint is done by rectus capitis posterior major and minor, whereas extension of head at the atlanto-axial joint is done by obliquus capitis superior and obliquus capitis inferior, whereas rotation of head at atlanto-occipital joint is done by obliquus capitis superior only and obliquus capitis inferior. Extension at atlanto-axial joint is done by only obliquus capitis superior. Okay, so this is about the suboccipital triangle. Now what are the contents of the suboccipital triangle? If you see the contents of the suboccipital triangle, you don't need to go into the details of the structures, only the contents are necessary. So this is the semispinalis capitis, this is splenius capitis. So the contents include mainly the, we don't have the whole contents are not seen here, so I thought I'll write here. So one is suboccipital plexus of veins. In the suboccipital triangle, we have suboccipital plexus of veins, muscular veins, occipital veins, deep cervical veins, internal cerebral venous plexus, condylar emissary veins, plexus around the vertebral artery. So the contents include, we have suboccipital plexus of veins, muscular veins, occipital veins, deep cervical veins, internal vertebral venous plexus, condylar emissary veins and plexus around the vertebral artery. Okay, there is also these three contents which are important. One is suboccipital nerve is present, which is the dorsal rami of C1, which is suboccipital nerve. We also have vertebral artery and greater occipital nerve. Here we have suboccipital nerve, vertebral artery and greater occipital nerve. So this is about the suboccipital triangle. Next, okay, so this is about the triangles of neck. Thank you guys for watching my lecture. Thank you.